I've faced death twice. The first time it was pure horror. The second time, it gave me a superpower. And no, not the kind you see in the movies. No flying, no x-ray vision. It's a secret psychological advantage that's made me fearless, optimistic, and completely present. Today, I'm going to share the mental shift that turns the fear of dying into the secret of living. And I'll show you exactly how you can get it, of course, without the near-death experience. Before all this, my life was fine. On paper, it was actually pretty good. Decent job at Cedar Point, comfortable apartment, and good friends. But if I'm being brutally honest, I was living on autopilot. My days were just a blur of regular monotony. I'd worry about work deadlines, about what people thought of me, about money, about saying the wrong thing at a party. My head was a constant buzz of fears that, looking back, were completely trivial. I was a master of postponing joy. I'd tell myself, I'll be happy when I get that degree from college. I'll finally relax once this project is over. I'll travel someday. My life was just a series of conditions I had to meet before I'd let myself feel content. I was so caught up in the past and so worried about the future, I was missing everything happening right now. The real irony, I thought I was in control, carefully managing my little life. In reality, I was just a passenger, completely asleep at the wheel, letting fear and obligation steer me through the gray, muted world. I took it all for granted. My health, the people I loved, time itself. Time felt infinite, like this endless resource I could afford to waste on things that didn't really matter. I was living, but I wasn't alive. I was so afraid of all the little deaths, the death of a project, a friendship, my reputation, that I never stopped to think about the real one. I had no idea my entire world was about to be shattered. The first time I experienced death was a blur. A surprise doctor visit, and a quick x-ray that changed my life. I visited my doctor for a persistent cough. I remember sitting in the waiting room after a chest scan. My mind focused back on getting to Cedar Point before my night shift. 1 second, everything's normal. The next, the doctor comes out and says, "John, we just called your parents. They will be here shortly." "My parents?" I uttered. "Why?" He nodded solemnly without saying a word, and he waved me back to the office. After a few moments of not hearing much of anything he was saying, he finally said, "John, you have cancer, and it's pretty far along. I'm guessing stage 4. I didn't know a lot about cancer then, but I knew that stage 4 was the worst kind. In that moment, the world spun and simultaneously slowed. The beeping of machines, the flipping through the scans, and the constant drone of the doctor's voice. In that weird, suspended moment, time just slowed to a crawl. All I could think was, so this is it? This is how it ends? At 21 years old? It was pure, primal terror. No profound insight, no life flashing before my eyes, just cold, final dread. After a year battling for my life, I wasn't feeling gratitude. I was just shaky, hollow relief. They just patched me up, sent me home, and everyone told me how lucky I was to make it through. And for a while, things did feel different. The sky seemed brighter, the food tasted better, but the world has a funny way of pulling you back into your old self. Pretty soon, the old mundanity crept back in. The deadlines, the bills, the social pressure, it all came flooding back. And the cancer just became another story to tell at parties. It had scared me, certainly, but it hadn't really changed me at all. The second time was much quieter, which made it far more terrifying. In 2017, I began a new position as a principal in Pennsylvania. I thought I had reached a significant level of achievement, as I always wanted a chance to run my own school. About a month into the school year, a strange pressure began to bloom in my chest. It wasn't dramatic like on TV. It was a pressure as I went upstairs to go to bed. My breath got shallow, and my legs felt like lead. I laid down, thinking I was just exhausted. I took a deep, heavy breath, and a sigh came out, and my wife asked me if I was okay. I hesitated. In the next 20 minutes, my wife got me into the car and drove me to the hospital. This wasn't like the medical process I was familiar with, like chemotherapy and radiation. This was my own body failing me. There was no one to blame and nothing to fight. The raw terror from cancer treatment was gone, and in its place was a strange, profound sense of surrender. I looked at my wife, the nurses, the overhead lights, and just felt connected to it all. All the little worries, the anxieties about my career, the social fears I carried around, they just evaporated. In that moment, the only thing that mattered was the chill of the room and the sound of my final deep breath. I closed my eyes and I thought, well, if this is the end, then this is it. There was no fear, just a strange and powerful peace. Obviously, I didn't die in that hospital room. The seasoned doctors and nurses reacted quickly, fired up the defibrillator, and shocked me back to life. The recovery was long, but something inside me had fundamentally changed. The moment of surrender wasn't about giving up. It was about waking up. The first near-death experience was just trauma. The second one was transformation. Psychologists actually have a name for this: post-traumatic growth. The positive psychological change that can happen after you struggle with a major life crisis. My superpower isn't being invincible. It's the exact opposite of that. It's a deep, constant awareness of my own mortality. The ancient Stoics had a phrase for it: memento mori. Remember, you must die. They didn't see this as morbid. They saw it as a tool for living with clarity. And man, were they right. Here's the secret. When you truly accept that your time is limited, your fear of everything else just shrinks. The fear of public speaking, of asking for a raise, of looking stupid or getting rejected, it all becomes laughably small when you hold it up against the ultimate loss. Facing death forced me to stop waiting for some perfect time to start living. And that's the superpower: radical presence. It's the ability to live completely and happily in the present moment, because you realize the present is all you're ever guaranteed. I no longer take life for granted. I have a crazy appreciation for the small things: the taste of chai tea, a good conversation, the feeling of wind on my face. My relationships are deeper and more real because I know my time with the people I love is precious and limited. This constant awareness of death doesn't make me sad. It makes me joyful. It gives my life a healthy urgency that pushes me to stop putting happiness off and start living on purpose. The trivial anxieties that used to eat me alive have lost their power. I realized I was trading my one precious life for things that didn't matter. And that awareness changed everything. So what does this actually look like day to day? It's not like I walk around in a state of enlightened bliss 24/7. And I still get frustrated when things don't go my way. I am a Browns fan after all. But my baseline has shifted. Before, a stressful project at work would mean weeks of anxiety. Now I just ask myself, on my deathbed, am I going to care about how this email was worded? The answer is always a resounding no. This perspective doesn't make me irresponsible. It actually makes me more effective because I focus on what truly matters and let the rest go. I used to be terrified of the instability, of what people would think. But my superpower is my willingness to try new things, like writing a book. I have Emergence coming out in 2026 and starting a YouTube channel. Do you know what it's like to love your family, your job, and your hobbies? I feel alive every single day. But you don't almost have to die to get this superpower. You can cultivate it. The Stoics did it for centuries. Here are 3 simple ways to start. First, the deathbed visualization. Spend 10 minutes in a quiet room. Seriously. Imagine yourself at the end of your life looking back. What did you do? What did you regret not doing? What actually mattered? This isn't meant to be depressing. It's meant to be clarifying. It will shine a massive spotlight on the gap between what you do every day and what you truly value. Second, a gratitude journal. I know, another journal. However, a gratitude journal with a twist. Each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for, but add the phrase for each one, and I'm aware this won't last forever. So, for example, I'm grateful for the long walk I took today, and I'm aware it won't last forever. This mixes gratitude with the reality of impermanence, which makes the good moments feel even richer. And third, the journal with your dying self exercise. When you're facing a tough decision or a nagging fear, pull out a journal. Write a letter to your dying self asking for advice. Then, write the response from that perspective, from the vantage point, free from ego and social pressure. The right path often becomes incredibly clear. These practices aren't about obsessing over death. I certainly don't do that. They're about using this thought of death as a compass to guide you back to life. It's a strategy for living with intention. If this idea hit home for you today, subscribe for more videos on how to live a fuller and more intentional life. And drop a comment below. What's one thing you would do tomorrow if you knew you couldn't fail? You don't have to almost die to start truly living. You just have to remember that you will. That realization isn't a curse, it's a key. It's a superpower. It turns every single day into a gift. It reminds you to open it, to savor it, and not waste a single moment. Lastly, I want you to remember you will eventually die. So go live like it. Thank you.